Hi, everybody. Very glad that you are here. All right, we're really getting into it now. We're into the building blocks of your Canvas course. The first thing we want to talk about are pages. First, what is a page? A page is a place for you to share information with students. It is something that does not require students to submit anything. It does not require them to earn a grade. It is a great place to organize and present content to students. The place that we as teachers use pages most often is for the agenda, the daily agenda. However, it's not exclusive to that. You can use pages for any time you think that you want to present and organize information to the students. Okay. We've already talked about the rich content editor, and that's really what you're going to use to build your pages. So what I thought we would talk about here is look at some examples of pages from both my course as well as other teachers' courses, how they've utilized pages. We'll talk about the pages index page. So those are the two big things that we will talk about. But making the page, if you're unsure about that, go back and watch the rich content editor video. That is how you make a page. Okay. So what are pages? You can see here. So I'm in my U.S. history course right now, and under my daily agendas item, you can see this icon right here. I know these are pages because of that icon. Okay, I'm going to jump to, I've got a couple people's classes open. You can see here are his pages. I'm jumping over called to respect because I can tell that's an assignment. So you can see, same as my course, he's using these for his daily agendas. I think I saw somewhere in here he used it for something else too. Hold on. Here we go. Here's another good example of using a page, but not necessarily for an agenda. Here he presented some general instructions for a project that the students were doing. And so a page is good for that. And then you can see the individual assignments connected with that project then are falling below that and indented slightly. So there's another example of a page. Let's go over here and look at Maddie's page. There's her daily agenda. And again, from that little icon, I can tell this is a page. So her daily agendas, she's using them for pages. Well, what does that look like on the inside? Let's stay in Maddie's course for just a second. And I'm just going to jump into a day. You can see all that great rich content editor learning that we did last lesson is here. So an image, some bolding, some bulleted lists, some links, both probably internal and external. That's probably an internal link. Here's a reader she compiled. That would be an external link. She's embedded a slideshow, all of that. But again, this isn't there for kids to necessarily turn something in. This is merely a presentation and an organization of content. Okay, so that's a page. Let me go back here to this one. So general directions. So here are general directions with respect to this project on Adam's page. And let me jump into an agenda as well. Let's just jump into any one. And there's an agenda. Again, he's embedded an image here, a little, bulleted lists for what's going to happen. Nothing he needed to link in here, and that's okay. Like, there's sometimes you might need to link stuff, sometimes you may not. What's coming up next, what to look ahead to, okay? So that's what pages are largely used for: creating agendas, creating content that you want to present to the students that, again, is not requiring them to submit anything or turn anything in. Let me just go into the publishing of pages, and then we'll talk about the page index. So to publish a page, this tells me this is scheduled to publish tomorrow. I know that. And this tells me these have already been published. Do I have any that have not yet been published? Amazingly, no. I'm done with this semester. Yay, pat on the back. So let's jump into this one that is scheduled to publish. Okay, and I need to pop into edit mode in order to see all of this. All right, so here's my page built using my rich content editor, links, all sorts of good stuff in there. We know all of that, right? So what are some options that I've got here? All right, who can edit this page? I never touch this. teachers can edit the pages. We don't give students the rights to edit pages. Now, you might have a situation where you want it, and if you do, that's where you would do that. I actually don't use this very often, but I could see it being useful. If I want to put my agenda on the students' to-do list, I would put a checkbox there. So again, I could see that being helpful. I don't use that very often, but if you wanted to, you could. And then I always try to get my agendas ready to go in advance, but I schedule them to publish at 7 a.m. on the day of the lesson. And I do that using these tools here. And that's why on that main landing page, on my modules page, you saw that little calendar icon that tells me it's set to publish at some point in the future. And then I know at 7 a.m. on the day it's going to post, and I don't have to, if my morning gets away from me, I don't have to worry about making sure that's done by class time. Now, that's how I usually leave my agendas, because they're for everybody that's in the course. I don't worry about assigning particular access. However, if you designed a page where you only wanted certain students to see that page, you can limit that to who you wanted to see that, okay? I think that's all that we need to talk about as far as that goes. Here's my save and publish if I'd set a time in the future, which is what I've done. But if I'm just working on a draft, I can just save as well, okay? I'm gonna go ahead and cancel that. Last thing we'll talk about is the pages index. Okay, these are all the pages that exist in this course, and because I do a page for every day of our learning, you can see I've got a page for every day of learning that we've had, right? Here's another example of me creating a page that was not an agenda, but here are all their voting forms, and I grade them out as we did the voting in the U.S. Tournament of Presidents, Abraham Lincoln won. So that's another example of pages. I'm going to go back to that index page. So here's what I think is interesting about the index page. What's great about this is, especially when you are brand new, and you are creating a course from scratch, you don't want to have to reinvent the wheel every single time you need to create a daily agenda. So what I strongly encourage you to do is, in your sandbox, play around with what you want your agenda pages to look like, and then save that as a template. Do I have my template in here anywhere? I probably am at the point, I've done this so many times that I've deleted it. I have, but there was a point when I was just starting to build this course, I had a template item. And that template item, I would duplicate it each time I wanted to create a new agenda. And I had in it my headers and my basic outline of what I wanted the page to look like. And so you don't have to reinvent the wheel. So it's a great thing to be using your sandbox for right now, is create a daily agenda template. It does not have to be super fancy. It can just simply be, what are the objectives of the day? What is a bulleted numbered list of your agenda? And then some good hyperlinks in there, okay? And resources and all sorts. Again, everything we talked about in our rich content editor lesson. But that is a top tip I would give you, is each one of these does not have to start from scratch. You can duplicate and edit, all right? And then when you want to get it into your module, right? So how did I get these here? My plus sign, page, and then there are all my pages again. And I simply choose the one that I want and I add that item into my module, okay? So that's pages. That's how you create them. That's how you organize them. That's how you publish them, all that kind of good stuff. As always, if you have any questions, let me know. Thanks.